was 4 years of torment for me. I walked away from, God, I swear, hundreds of fights. And every time you think you hit the lowest low, there was something lower than that. All of that is an act. It's work to me. I lost at every tournament. Nothing. There's no reserves. Man, that guy yelled at me like you wouldn't believe. We live paycheck to paycheck.
KJN Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I want to preface this by saying how grateful I am. I don't think, I joined the martial arts school in March 2017. I don't think I thought ever in a million years would it come to the spot where I am interviewing one of my life idols.
Oh my God, I don't even know what to say. I really, I'm excited to be able to make this happen. And if I was to think of anyone that was to do it for me, it'd probably be you. So let's do it.
All right, you know what? Let's get right into it. Okay. So as I already mentioned, you're one of my life idols, and you have 200 people out there in that school, maybe more, who look up to you in the same way I do. But this person who's just inspires everyone. Like you walk into a room, people are like, "Oh my God, who is this?" And we just all heads turn, voices stop. You couldn't just have come out of nowhere. So to anyone watching, to anyone listening, what would be the context you'd give them to understand who is it that you are today?
Oh my God, who am I today? I think of a person who just never stopped dreaming when they were a kid, and to continue to keep dreaming, because if you've accomplished all your dreams, you haven't dreamed enough. And so just a guy who just kept dreaming bigger and bigger things, and when I got to that dream, I kept thinking, what's bigger than that? And I'm just a person, an average person who learned principles from martial arts and applied it to my life, and it got me to where I am and who I am, and that's that.
But it can't have always been like this, right? Like, you walk into a room, like I said, people, your head just turns. It's like the only other person who I've seen that kind of effect from are going to be billionaires and great grandmaster KJN Reyes. So what is it gonna be that, like, I bet you always say martial arts has made a huge impact on your life. What were you like before martial arts?
I guess from my parents' perspective, I was a hyperactive ADHD, breakdancing, running around, couldn't stay in one place kind of kid. That didn't have focus in school. Was terrible at school, terrible at education. But thank God he blessed me with some street smarts. And who else was I as a kid? Just that person that did that. And I basically failed kindergarten. And my dad was like, you can't fail kindergarten. And so he pulled me out of that school and brought me to another elementary school where they started me off at first grade, because if I stayed at the other school, I would have been a kindergartner again. And so that was who KJN Brian was as a kid, and transformed into this person now. Now that I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, that little boy. That's probably from my parents' perspective. For me, I was just someone who just always wanted to have fun. Life was all about fun. And then somewhere in there, I was kind of the shy kid who didn't have many friends, who knew everyone. Everyone knew me, but I didn't speak to most people. High school, I stayed in my own lane. And so, yeah, it's strange to be this person that people might describe me to be, and I don't even see myself that person yet, or so-called, quote, a master instructor. So yeah, as a kid, that was who I was, and growing up, this is where I am now.
You mentioned staying in your own lane. Could you give me a bit more detail as to what you meant by that?
Yeah, I never really just knew what like a goal orientation in my mind. I never had that. So I didn't flock to the popular group or the sports and jocks group or the nerds group or the weirdo group. I literally, Piedmont Hills High School, there was a building called the L Building, and I would just sit at the L Building pretending to read a book because I hated reading a book, but I would sit there reading a book so no one would bother me. And that was the lane I stayed in because I didn't want to be with people who I couldn't grow with, and I was also afraid to grow with other people as well. And so staying in my own lane meant just be me, do you, don't worry about the teachers, the students, professors, adults, peers, just me. And that's who I was. That's all I cared about. Not fancying anybody, just me. That saying, do you, that really was me.
That's okay. So it's funny, you hear about all these stories of all these big billionaires who most business owners, they're gonna fall into one of those groups. Very few of them, oftentimes it's gonna be the nerd group. Very few times it's gonna be they were on their own, which is interesting to know that, in your own words, you failed kindergarten, you stayed in your own lane in high school. Someone like that becomes someone like this. It's truly inspirational.
Yeah, you say inspiration, but I don't know. I don't know if it's luck. I don't know. And here we are, you interviewing me, and I'm thinking to myself how lucky I am to be in this position to say the right words, and I don't even know if I have those right words. I'm just enjoying the process and having you take me down memory lane, because it's a good reminder for me. Like, thinking back, I forgot I almost didn't pass kindergarten until you made me think that far away. So yeah.
I want to jump into one of your philosophies. Back when I was testing in the 2020 mastery test, there was something that you would say to us all the time, every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. No, what am I saying? Every Saturday morning, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable. What in your life made you understand, okay, this is the value of being early? Because it took me until that test to understand. And even still now, I don't fully embrace it wholeheartedly. It's something I've been working on, trying to be more and more punctual to getting early.
Right.
And what made you realize that being early is important?
Whew, man. I think it's something that we all strive for, and it's not something that's mastered. I mean, even now, that philosophy is huge, but then now you have a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old, and let me tell you, on time is not on time. Early is not early anymore. But you plant that seed in yourself, and you plant that seed in other people, and we'll always have something to strive for on that. And it really truly is the early bird gets the worm in life. It's preparation. It's all of those things that make you successful. Punctuality has to be the top 3 things that successful people do. You're gonna be late. You're gonna be late to your own funeral. You can't have that lifestyle. Being punctual makes you a person that's accountable, and being accountable is somebody that you can always count on to be there for you. And if I need someone, or if someone needs me, they know without a shadow of a doubt I'm going to be there. And it's not because I was on time or early. It was because of all of those moments that accumulated in my life to make that person realize this person's going to be there for me. So it's bigger than that. It's not just on time and early and late. It's accountability for the people you trust in your life.
And for you, was there this kind of turning point where as a child, when you had control of it, would you always tend to be early, or was there
My dad was always early.
Okay.
Dad was always early. Mom was always late. Thinking about mom, she was always late. And And then I remember my dad taking me to a martial arts training Saturday morning with Quadrum Tony. I think I've said this story to some students. And we were early. Training was supposed to be like at 6 in the morning. We got there at 5:45, but for some reason, all my fellow classmates were in there. They were training with Quadrum Tony. The door was locked, and once the door is locked, you got to go home. And the door was locked, and we were so confused. So my dad made me knock on the window, and I knocked. No one would answer it. My dad took me in the car, went home. Back then, to find out the time of things, you had to dial popcorn. I don't know if you guys know what popcorn is, but you'd pick up your phone, your rotary dial phone, and there was letters corresponding to numbers, and POPCORN was 7 digits. You would dial that number, and it would say on an operator voice, Pacific Daylight Savings Time is, and it would say 5:45 or whatever the time was. So he's like, see, look, even popcorn says it's 5:45. He's like, what's wrong with Tony Thompson? And the next day was training, and my dad drops me off, and he's like, Quadrum Tony, we were there. You didn't open the door for my son. We were early. What's going on? And then Quadrum Tony said, I was testing his patience and your patience. And then he was like, patience? There's no patience. We were there at the time you were supposed to be there before that time. And so then it went into like realizing that punctuality interacted with patience also. And he was just testing to see if I was going to stay there and sit on the curb, or, you know, like, even if I sat on the curb and it was 6 o'clock and he still didn't open the door, would I sat there as this masterful student to learn a lesson that might not have been a lesson, or there was a lesson? It didn't matter. It was just be there. And so my dad was kind of like, huh. And I just, for some reason, took that with me for the rest of my life. But I'll never forget that. That was a moment in teaching on being early, on time, patience, and yeah.
So you started martial arts ridiculously young, like you're mentioning, right? It's going to be some of those times where it's going to be some of the most foundational moments of you, where an instance like this can just truly imprint, right? Like this thing where you're learning patience, you're learning time management, you're learning how to be punctual at a young age. But on top of that, what were the other changes you saw, like, as you were headed from, like, you were a person who, in your parents' eyes, hyperactive ADHD, like you mentioned, to now you're getting your first 3 black belt. What were the changes you saw in yourself?
Like you said, I was 5, and then got my black belt about 9. 4 years of being a rambunctious kid. God, you know, there probably wasn't a lot. Like, a lot. Like, for some of you guys that start... How old were you when you started?
Oh, gosh. I think maybe 10 or 11.
10 or 11. So you would be 14, 15 when you got your first degree black belt. Is that correct?
I was 15 when I got my second degree somehow.
Okay, so
Yeah,
10...
So 13, because
13.
of the Supreme Legacy you rushed to some of us.
There was a couple of people. So there was a 3... So there's usually a 3 to 4 year mark
3, exactly.
for people going for the black belt. So from 10 to 13, your maturity is way more advanced than if you were to look at someone who was going from 5 to 8 or 9.
Okay.
And if you look at those kids, it's not that they're not learning anything. Like, man, I mean, I must have learned everything from leadership to teamwork to accountability to patience, being on time, punctuality, how to walk with power of presence, being a black belt at 9 years old. Like, all of those things I'm learning the same way all of these young kids are learning the same exact thing. But it's different when you're older, becoming a teenager, becoming a black belt, and things like that. But what's amazing is whether you're 8 or you're 80, the teachings and the principles and the life skills and life lessons are all the same. For example, Diana testing for her black belt this time around is the only adult. You know, if we're looking at her in her 40s and you're looking at one of her fellow teammates is 9, they're still learning the same exact principles. She's going to understand it at a different maturity level, but little 9-year-old is going to get what he's going to get out of it, but it doesn't mean that it was any less than what Diana got. So for me, did I learn things? Yes, but I was still the crazy, bratty kid who thought he was so cool becoming a black belt, and that was first degree black belt.
I know you say that your fourth degree black belt is a click, but there's a couple things I want to hit before that. Right now you're 9. Let's fast forward a couple more years, and then we'll jump back a bit to martial arts. I want to know about high school. There's something that you told us when we were testing for a belt in 2020 that's just stuck with me ever since. It's a story of Quashim Tony telling you this thing. So you're in high school, and Quashim Tony tells you something about, and I forget the specific details, but it's more along the lines of, if you get in a fight, you're gonna walk away because you're the martial artist. So you're the one who, I think it was like, you're the one who gets hit by it or something. Like, you're the martial artist. You have the values to step away from that fight when the other person doesn't. You're the bigger person.
Right.
Could you tell me, like, why did you spend all your middle school and all your high school walking away from these fights? Because if I was, I know personally for me, if I was in this, like, I think if you remember, a couple months in my, like, this is May of 2022, I call you up, and like, this is after I get shoved into a wall by a junior, and I call you up and I'm like, sir, if I hit back, am I in the clear? Because I wouldn't be the one walking away from all those fights. I was, in that moment, I was angry. I'm like, you shove me while my back is turned, while I'm talking to my friends. We've never interacted before. So I was pissed off, and I would have, if he was right there, if he hadn't run away, I would have hit back, and it would be something I regret, but I didn't.
Right.
Because I called you up. I didn't go after him. I called you. You said don't. But this is something that you did on your own. You weren't calling Quashim Tony every time you got in a fight, and you're like, sir, do I hit back? What was that for you?
Wow. Yeah, Quashim Tony really instilled walking away from fights. And for some reason, I don't even know what magnetic draw there was, but the Vietnamese gang in 7th grade, 8th grade, freshman year, sophomore year, 4 years of being bullied, always wanted to fight, always wanted me to I don't know if they wanted to test my martial arts because they knew I was a black belt. I don't know if they just wanted to pick on me and feel better. I don't know what it was. And I remember sitting down with Quashim Tony in his office. When you sit with Quashim Tony, like, when he talks, you truly listen and absorb everything. And maybe absorb it too much, because I remember a talk, and he was like, Brian, there's no necessity to fight. Like, you could theoretically hurt that person. Both parties will be in trouble. He gave me the whole spiel, and I was old enough to understand. I wasn't an 8-9-year-old kid. I was in my teens. And so it just stuck with me. It really stuck with me. And I walked away from, God, I swear, hundreds of fights. Hundreds. I remember someone spitting on me and holding, like, breathing as powerful as I could to not do anything. Probably created some little bit of anger management in my body, in my system, mentally. But martial arts always brought me back to being a more peaceful warrior, like Quashim Ernie would say. And so I'd always hear his voice. It's just stay disciplined. And I think if there's a trait that I might have, that it's time to settle to do something, my discipline will always take me over, above, and beyond what I need to do to make it happen. And that's anything in life. And if that meant don't fight, my discipline would be like, no matter what you do, you're not fighting. And so I didn't. Now, the funny story to that is that when I sat with Quashim Tony when I was like 30 years old, I was like, Quashim, you know how many fights I walked away because he told me not to fight? He was like, how many fights did you walk away from? I was like, hundreds. He's like, why did you ever throw a punch? And I'm like, you told me not to throw a punch. He's like, yeah, maybe the one fight, maybe the 2 fights, but sooner or later you got to fight back. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling me for 30 plus years I've misinterpreted you saying not to fight meant not to fight, but if you have to protect yourself. He's like, always. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I've had a misinterpretation for a very long time. And I still tell students and parents to this day, walk away. There's no necessity to fight. There's no necessity to have both parties in trouble. Both sides of the parents are going to be litigational problems. There's no need. But if you can do something where you're standing up for yourself and it stops 4 years of torment, it was 4 years of torment for me. If it could have been 1 month, 1 week, if I would have just stood my ground, who would I become? Would I have become a more confident person through my high school years? Would I not have stayed in my lane and joined, sports teams and clubs, and would I have been a different person? Or not? Now everything happens for a reason, and I became who I became because of all of that. But yeah, Quadrum just really, something stuck in me about not fighting, and I just misinterpreted it the whole entire time. So yeah, pretty funny situational story back then.
And do you regret misinterpreting it, or do you for yourself, do you wish won those fights, like whether it's the 5th or the 400th fight? Do you wish you had fought back, or are you happy that you just...
God, that's a deep question, because you look at the butterfly effect of all of it, right? What was the result of not fighting? I'm here doing this. This is what happened. If I fought, would it have been more successful? Would it be less successful? Would I have been in the principal's office and then hated it and maybe never gone to school? I didn't go to school already. I was already cutting classes all the time. So would I have done anything different? No. And I think truly the way of the peaceful warrior is the way. And even if you look like now to this point, like an actual fist fight where I got into a situation where I needed to control the situation, still haven't happened. My sister and everybody always wonders, like, hey, do you think KJN Brian can really protect all of us? Like, we've never seen it in action. And we all wonder. I mean, I would assume I can handle myself, but it's never happened. And you know what? Thank God it hasn't happened, because I think the way of not fighting without fighting is the best way. Truly. There's going to be a time, for sure. And now, you got kids. I have kids now, and maybe that changes things. But up until this point, no regrets. I'm glad, KJN, I'm glad you told me what I interpreted. But that's what it is.
That's amazing to hear. A lot of people, if they were in your place, they wouldn't think about the butterfly effect. They'd just be like, oh, those 4 years out, I could have, they would think only you're also thinking about what could have gone wrong if I had fought back. And that's even though you are in your 40s, most people don't attain that level of maturity until they're on their deathbed and they're looking back at their life. So it's truly inspirational. And you say martial arts is, and considering where you are today, martial arts is probably one of the biggest things that's had this impact on your life. So
it's the only thing.
Only thing?
Really, it really is.
Yeah. So if we go, let's take a look at your so we've talked already up from joining martial arts a decent bit up to your first degree, but I want to know, what was that? Because there had to, overnight success just does not happen. It's all that work that leads into it. So even though your click was your 4th degree test, what had to happen between your 1st to 3rd degree to make that click possible for your 4th degree?
I think it was just the love and passion for martial arts that got me to the school every day. Of course, when you were younger, there was times I didn't want to go, right? Just like any normal kid. And even those days I didn't want to go, my dad dragged me. He was like, you're going. I don't care. You're going. But when it got to the point where you had love for it and you found the community and the culture out of that school, and you started going to the kids' night outs and the birthday parties and hanging out with your friends, and I wanted to be there from open to close. You're doing that day in and day out, and the commitment from first degree to third degree like that, it does something to your foundation that, I wanted to work there. I worked there when I was 15. I worked at Berryessa for free. I didn't even want to get another job to get paid somewhere else because I just wanted to be at the school. And so you do that, and it just transcends into what happens. Like you say, I think the click, the fourth degree is the click in my life for sure. So from first to third, you're just doing that day in, day out. Every tournament. I mean, I can't tell you how many weddings and birthdays and housewarmings and celebrations I've missed because of a tournament or a black belt test. But I had no regrets, right? I went and I enjoyed being at the tournament all day. I'd sit and watch open form competitors. I would watch form, sparring, everything. And I would suck at it, but I'd still do it, and I would do it, and I would do it. And when you do that for so long, I think it's bound for that click to just snap over, and then it happens. So there wasn't anything that was definitive. It was, I think, a repetitional commitment of every single day consistency that you didn't even know that was happening. You're subconsciously not knowing. You're just doing what you do. And at some point, something great happens out of it. Because there was no... I look at my first through third, and it was a blink of an eye. Nothing... It wasn't like there was something significant at second degree. There wasn't something significant at third degree. I remember moments where I had a fever my first degree test, second degree test, third degree test, a fever doing my whole entire curriculum. Those were significant things, but it wasn't like it was the contribution to my fourth degree change in my lifestyle. So I think just consistency over time, creating the foundation, creates success, whether you know it or not. It's gonna happen. I think of it like some of the martial art kids. You're just here day in, day out. You're trying 540, so you're doing tornadoes over and over again, and one day you land it and you're like, how the heck did I land it? Because you just kept doing it and doing it and doing it, and you subconsciously just throw it one day and it lands, and you're just like, and the light bulb kicks on, and you're like, wait a minute, I think I can make it better. And then you do it again and it gets better and better and better and better. But it was just consistency over time, and I think that's huge. But that was first to third. Every day. And I still wasn't great. I wasn't a great technical martial artist first degree to third degree. Like, never a best tester, right? So it was just consistency. And consistency of losing. I lost at every tournament. I never beat any of those next generation guys. I just kept losing. But I kept coming, and I kept coming, and I kept coming. So, yeah, that's that.
And then something had to change, because every day when I would walk in the martial arts school that used to be in this building, right on that wall, you would have, I think it was that wall, you'd have the I think it's like 4 or 5 championship belts just hung off right there, best tester belts. There, if you're going from first, from all the way from 5 all the way to whenever you test for a third degree black belt and you're just losing, then there has to be something that takes you from someone who's not winning anything to being the best of the best. What was that click for you? What was that light bulb moment, and what was the change that resulted from that?
I think, like you said, the click moment was my fourth degree journey.
The whole journey, okay.
So I was a third degree, and I was going for my fourth degree. And I was 15 when I was a third degree. And so in theory back then, 4 years for your fourth degree would have made me 19 years old to go for my fourth degree black belt. But then they didn't have test every year or 2 years for fourth degree. It was every so often. And the next big often was the 2020 the year 2000 mastery test. And And so that meant that I would have to wait not 4 years, but 5 years to test for that. And so I waited 5 years to test for that. And in that year 2000, I remember having a conversation with Quadrum Tony, and he said I wasn't ready to test for my 4th degree belt. And I said, Quadrum, I've already waited the eligible 4 years and an extra year because the test isn't coming until 2000. He said, you're just not ready. And I was like, with all due respect, why am I not ready? And he's like, because I said you're not ready. And that was the old school mentality. And here's the next funny story. Years later, like maybe when I'm 35, sitting down with Quadrum Tony, and I'm like, Quadrum Tony, how come you didn't let me test for my 4th degree black belt in 2000? He's like, I didn't? I'm like, you don't even remember? Like, I'm your last student surviving in the last 35 years or something here, and you don't remember that? And he's like, no. I was like, Quadrum, you told me I wasn't ready. Then you must have not been ready. I was like, how am I not ready after 5 years? He's like, something, you just must have not been ready. And I'm like, I can't believe, if it was anyone else, Quadrum, they would have quit. And he's like, look, you're still here. I must have did something right. And so, so then I was like, all right, well, I'm not testing in 2000. The next test was 2003's mastery test. And that meant I had to wait 3 more years to test for my 4th degree black belt, which only takes 4 years, which only takes 2 years now for students at your caliber of this generation. So you want to talk about a click? It wasn't a 4-year click. It wasn't a 5-year click. It took 8 years, an 8-year journey to my 4th degree. So by that time in 2003, I was finally 23 years old. I wasn't a teenager. And I remember training in the Philippines. I left in 1999. I came back for 2000's mastery test only to be denied that I wasn't going to test. Thought I was in the best shape of my life. Left again to go back to the Philippines. Come back and hang out and get ready for 2003. And I remember being in the Philippines thinking to myself, I'm not this young teenager kid anymore. I'm not this young 15-year-old just jumped on the next generation team. I want to show all those school owners, because the way you might see all of those quadronyms and how young black belts see all of these school owners as maybe legends or whatnot, they were legendary to me. I mean, I grew up with my quadronyms that I looked up to were Quadrum Ernie's national champions that he developed in 1 year that no other association produced. Those were the quadronyms I looked up to. Quadrum Scott Coker, Sujin Lee, Gary Nakahama, all of these names. Every Saturday when I saw them, I was like, these guys are legends. And so I was like, they're gonna see me as not this little Brian Go kid anymore. Like, they're gonna know that I can be the best of them. And I was training for my 4th degree when they were going for their 5th or 6th degree at that time. And I wanted to just blow them all away. I wanted to be better than all of them. And I didn't know how it was going to click, how I was going to be the best. I just knew that I wanted that. And Quadrum Ernie gave me the opportunity 1 year, 1 day. I don't even know what happened at one next generation practice. I asked him if he was, how does he stay in shape? What does he do? He said he worked out at Gold's Gym. He said, you should come and join us. And I was like, I didn't even have a Gold's Gym membership. And at that time I was like, dude, the great grandmaster just asked me to work out with him, weightlifting. Knew nothing about weightlifting. And I just jumped in. I told my dad and my mom, I was like, hey, I'm going to go work out with Quadrum Ernie. I'm going to get a membership at Gold's. And he told me to meet him up at whatever time it was. And then that day we worked out together with Quadrum Dave Medina and Quadrum Bill Gardino. Those were his training partners. And he let me into that small circle. And then he said, I'll see you Thursday. I was like, yes, sir. And he was working out Tuesdays and Thursdays. And at that time, I believe. And then I came back on Thursday, and then Tuesday and Thursday. And I did that every day until he invited me to train with him on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then it became Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. and I saw my life changing and evolving and being taken serious as not this little kid Brian Go anymore, but I wanted to be a force to be reckoned with. And Ernie saw something or whatever the heck it was and gave me that chance, and I ran with it like you wouldn't believe. So that's 8 years of journey to that 4th degree test that became probably the most epic, memorable occasion in my life. You know, every great degree is awesome. 5th degree, 6th degree, 7th degree, 1st degree, like you can't replace those. But my 4th degree test was a significant life-changing moment, LCM, in my life. And yeah, that's how that turned out. That's how it all kind of came about. I don't know if it was a click. It just evolved into something that I guess you can't really explain. The greatest things in life you can't explain. That was one of the greatest moments that just turned into something.
I'm gonna be rewatching this little section a lot. I don't think I fully understand what you just said, but I'm gonna understand it after rewatching these clips for a while.
I don't even know if I understand it. Like, man, you brought me back to I can tear up thinking about those moments with Quadrant Ernie, and you know, I know how far apart our lives are at this time, and him taking a chance on me. I don't even know if he took a chance. I don't know if he didn't even think that I was gonna show up to the gym. Because we had our times, you know. Man, that guy yelled at me like you wouldn't believe at demo practice. I was the worst guy on the team, and then to be his right-hand man at one point in his life, and it's crazy, you know, to look at all of that. And that happened around the 23-year-old mark for me, 2003's mastery test. So when you asked me that, like, what was the clicking moment? There was no clicking moments, and then it brought me back to thinking about all of that. Wow, that was crazy moment. You know, that was the moment I told him that after my 2003 mastery test, I was leaving to sign up to go be a Navy SEAL and leave West Coast and the association and stop teaching and stop working out, and I wanted to go and serve my country, and I was like, how can I not be a Navy SEAL? I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm 23. I just learned how to do the craziest knife disarms against an electrocution knife, all these crazy stories, and how can I not be a Navy SEAL? And then I just remember him saying, you're not meant to be a Navy SEAL. Like, that's awesome, you want to serve the military, your country, but he's like, you're meant to be a teacher. You're meant to do something great in this life that's going to pass on to generations. And I was like, no, sir, I want to be a Navy SEAL. And he just wanted to be a badass elite guy, you know, and I wanted to carry my gun and do my thing, and he was like, no, that's not you. And I was like, how am I gonna make it in the karate school? I remember seeing all my head instructors, and they never made money. Everyone always left to go to college, get a real job. I was like, there's no way, sir. And he was like, if I have to find a way to give you a school one day, we'll figure this out. Let's do it together. And I was just like, what in the world? And that moment, I knew I wasn't going into the military anymore, which changed my life, because God, probably from 19 to 23, all I could think about was being a Navy SEAL. Watched every video, every movie, every documentary. This might be off script. I was a security officer for Moffett Field, and I had to go through all this training. There was hundreds of applicants, and they dropped it down to like the top 7, and then after that they sent me to the simulation course on how to shoot crazy like kill shot kills, like 2 in the heart, 1 in the head, and everything you had to do was precise. And there was 7 of us, and I graduated out of that class in first place. And so all I could think about was being a Navy SEAL. if you want to talk about a life-changing moment, God, 20 years old, 21, had to be somewhere around there. I applied for that job. Moffett Field was the hugest security clearance government job you can get that wasn't a police officer. And I went through that whole course. I went through that gun course. I graduated. Everything was great. And then when they gave me a paper, said, here's your offer. And it said something like I had to work Monday to Friday, and it stopped me from teaching karate. And I was like, hey, we didn't discuss these hours. I told you what my hours were when I applied. Like, no, these are the hours that you would work. And I said, there's no way. If I do this, I can't teach martial arts. They're like, then you have to pick what you want. And I was like, wait, I'm in college right now, finishing my criminal justice degree. I'm teaching karate. I thought I was applying for a job that was going to part-time be able to help me do all of that. They're like, no, this is a full-time job. This is the salary. And the salary was more than, it was a lot. It was a lot of money. And insurance, benefits, pension plans. I mean, the government takes care of you. And so I was like, what in the world is going on here? I go, I can't take this job. And they're like, you can't turn this down. We just turned down hundreds of applicants. You're the last one. I went through interviews, background checks. My neighbors told me they got background checked for me. Like, it was a crazy process. And I said, I need to think about this. They're like, you need to give us a decision like now. I need a couple minutes. And I remember taking this paper, and I walked outside around the building, and I just started crying. Like, I can't give up martial arts. I can't not finish my college degree from my dad, who wanted me to be a cop. And I was just crying. And then I called two people. Eunice, one of my best girlfriends all throughout high school and middle school and after. And I told her what situation I was in, and she's like, you're a martial artist. You're meant to do that. It's like, turn this job down. I was like, look how much money I'm gonna make. And they're like, it's not about the money. And she talked me out of it, but I was not convinced. And then I called Quadrandana, and I was like, what do I do? And man, you want to talk about someone inspiring. She's probably one of the most inspirational people in my life, even to this date. And she just said the words that needed to be said. And I just was so confident. I walked back in, I put the piece of paper down on that recruiter's desk, and I said, with all due respect, this wasn't what I applied for. I'm going to go back to my martial arts job. I'm going to finish my college degree. And I respectfully decline this position. And they said, if you decline this position, we're never going to be able to offer this to you again. And I said, that's fine. And I remember walking out with my chest high and proud that I thought I made the right decision. And here we are again. Like, that decision impacted where I'm at. I could have been a high security officer clearance person for top secret, confidential, classified information. Who knows what Moffett Field does? UFO aliens? Who knows, right? Like, I could have been doing all of that, and I didn't. But that happened right there during that 23 years old mark, testing for my fourth. All of that was all blended all together. That was a huge life-changing moment, because I could have took that job and it would have been completely different in life. So yeah, so when you talk about going off script and going back to watch this, it's funny because you're bringing up things that I completely forgot. I forgot that moment. I forgot that Quadramnon and Eunice saved my life, really. Which is important, because without this conversation, I won't have the opportunity to call them and be like, dude, I did this interview today, and I just called to be telling you how grateful I am. And they probably won't even understand, and they probably like, what are you talking about? But just so that I know what I got out of this interview was way more than thought of. Yeah.
So one thing I just wanted to touch on, you mentioned this, and this is something that's completely, like, I never knew about this one. right? Like you've told us all these stories, but the criminal justice degree, that's completely new. So criminal justice, you said it was because your dad wanted you to become a cop?
Dad was like animate about me being a police officer. He was like, God, if I could be a police officer, you should be a police officer. Da, 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 da. You can run a karate school and be a police officer. And I just was like, no, but I'm going to do this degree, make him happy. But I'm not going to be a police officer. And I remember the day I told him that I wasn't going into law enforcement and I was going to continue to grow my education and learning how to be the best teacher and business owner I could be. He thought it was the biggest bad mistake of my life. He thought I could juggle both. He wasn't wrong. I could probably have juggled both, but that's not where my heart was at. And I think he was a little brokenhearted that I didn't go down the criminal justice degree path. And I look back at it now, and the only regret I have is that I spent 2 years on a associate's degree on criminal administration of justice with a specialty in law enforcement. Went through the whole entire course, ready for police academy, and none of that really applies to what I do in my current life. If I did physical therapy, human anatomy, kinesiology, I would have known the human body way better, that would adapt to martial arts and to fitness, and I would have been a little bit more educated. But I got this degree on how to file a police report. That's not going to do anything for me in this present moment. But yeah, administration of justice. Like I said, I always wanted to be a Navy SEAL. Before that, I wanted to be in the SWAT team. You know, something always elite, something the best of the best in whatever department I was going in. And if I was going to be a cop, I was going to go into SWAT. If I was going into the military, I wanted to be a SEAL. So it was always that part of my life that was something that had to do with a gun.
And where do you think this desire to be one of the best in whatever you do, where do you think that stems from?
Man, I think just everybody you've surrounded yourself with. My dad always wanted me to be the best. Quadrum Tony, Quadrum Ernie. You know, everybody expects you to be the very best version of yourself, and I don't think I had that implanted in me. I don't know if people that are great are born with that mentality. Is that something that's developed? Is it something you're born with? I bet people can look back at it and be like, yeah, Brian wasn't the best at anything growing up. I wasn't. I lost everything. I lost all the tournaments, never won best testers. I think when you still want to be the best, even though you lose that much, that consistency over time again transcends into becoming the best naturally, organically. It just happens, and I think that's even more special, because I didn't grow up a Michael Jordan. I didn't grow up a Babe Ruth. I didn't grow up a Rich Froning, Matt Frazier, these greats, Tiger Woods. I didn't grow up like naturally gifted, which makes it even more believable that hard work trumps talent. But I didn't have that mentality of just wanting to be the best. I just think that I just wanted to do what I could, and just keep on forging forward, win or lose, win or learn.
What was your teaching experience like at Berryessa? And then I think you said you've told us one time that you worked at Santa Clara too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what was your teaching experience like? What kind of impact did you have on the students you taught there? Because knowing you and what I know about you, sir, those students would have been some of the best. So
it's funny, at 15 I was at Berryessa just teaching karate, and I didn't see myself as becoming an instructor, a master instructor, a head instructor. They already had those people. I remember those people, Quadrum Kethan Patel and Rari and Travis, and all these guys were amazing teachers. I was just the SWAT guy on the side that was just taking a group. So from 15 to 19, 20, 15 to 20, I was just a Joe Schmo teacher. No one gave me training. At that time, probably Quadrum Tony wasn't around as much anymore at that point. That school was being headed by other instructors. Those guys didn't really give me the training I needed to become a better instructor. And then when Quadrum Ernie said, come to Santa Clara, we'll train you there, and one day we'll find a school that we can pass to you. So I went to Santa Clara, and at 20 years old, and that changed my life. Being taught literally, I think the best instructor in the world is Quadrum Dana. Technically, Quadrum Dana. When we talk about forms and kicks and those things to make you look demo team dope, Quadrum Dana. Quadrum Dave is an unbelievable stick, knife, MMA, grappling, combat. Anything you talk about like that aspect, there's no greater teacher. And then you got Quadrum Ernie at his school, and man, he's the all-around best thing you can possibly get in both Quadrum Dave and Quadrum Dana. And then you got Quadrum Smitesh, who runs the programming business side of things over at Santa Clara, the most successful West Coast school, and not if the most successful martial arts school in the entire world. And so I'm there at 20 years old, and I don't know if it was like me being a sponge, because I don't remember the exact moment where I was like, I'm going to own my own karate school one day, so I'm going to learn everything I possibly can at the school. But somewhere in the line that happened. But from 20 to 23, I think I was just trying to be a good teacher. And Quadrum Dana just, man, she was phenomenal at teaching. I think what I'm really good at, I might be more of a visual learner, maybe. There's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. You either see, feel, or touch, or hear things. And I think I see something, and if I got passion for it, I'm going to mimic it the best possible way. So I watched Quadrum Dana like a hawk, how she talked, teach, and she would say these things to these dragons, and just seeing the excitement of the kids jumping with joy, and I'm like, I want to be that. And so I would talk to the kid like, oh my God, in a high-pitched voice, and I would do exactly what Quadrum Dana did. And so, yeah, she was teaching me, but I was teaching myself to watch the best and mimic the best. And so when you talk about being lucky at that school, man, I'm the luckiest guy, because how many instructors in the entire association was trained from like 20 to 30 years old, 10 years at Santa Clara under those three unbelievable teachers. No West Coast instructor can say that in the entire association. And then, to have a direct linkage, correlation straight from Master Reyes, not a lot of people can say that either. Like, Joe Schmo will open up a West Coast school. His instructor was Quadronym Joe Schmo. His quadronym was taught by Quadrum Ernie. So how many generations passed before that guy owned his own West Coast school? For me, I'm just a direct correlation straight from Quadrum Ernie and Quadrum Dana, and then I got my school. So there's no in-betweeners. And so that makes me super lucky, super fortunate than any other West Coast school owner to have learned all of those things there at that school. And then at 30 years old, when my mom passed, somewhere around that moment, I asked Quadrum Ernie for permission to leave to the Philippines to spread my mom's ashes back at her home. And I left, and I wasn't sure exactly when I was coming back. And what was supposed to be be gone for 1 month turned into 8 months. And Quadrum Ernie and Quadrum Dana, everyone was like, when you coming back? When you coming back? And I was like, I'm coming back soon. I don't know when. I got to figure out my life. 30 years old. I don't know what the hell to do with my life. And I was always afraid of opening my own martial arts school. I think 3-4 years prior to that moment, I remember Quadrum Jason Cole every year always saying, hey, when are you going to open up your school? Hey, when are you going to open up your school? Hey, when are you going to open up your school? It's time, it's time, it's time. And I was always scared, always nervous, always didn't know what to do. So I would always just shun him off. And at 30, mom passed away. I'm in the Philippines. I'm lost. I don't know what to do with my life. And then it just occurred to me with my mom coming to me in a dream once, like, it's time for you to open a school. And that was it. Went back, told Quadrum Ernie I was ready to open my own school. And then, with all due respect, I said, I don't need to open a school if I can stay here, make the certain amount of money that would allow me to live the lifestyle I can provide for myself, instead of me going off and trying to open my own school. At that time, they couldn't afford that luxury to keep me, because honestly, I didn't want to pay rent, pay payroll, pay taxes, pay utilities, PG&E, all the things that a business owner has to do. I thought I had the best job in the world. I just taught 6 days a week for 6 hours a day, less than 40 hours a week, and got to be on the demo team and travel around the world. That was my work. Like, I could do this forever. I just couldn't do it at $20,000 a year. Like, it just didn't work. So I asked him if it was possible, and it wasn't. And he respectfully was like, you know what, we believe in you. Go for it. Go open your own school. And then we parted our ways respectfully. A week later, he came back and said, come see him. So I went to go see him, and he said, why don't you try running the West Coast Milpitas school before you open your own school? You know, you'd be able to see what it's like to be a business owner, school owner, and that'll give you some experience. So then I went from Berryessa to Santa Clara to Milpitas, and I stayed there for about a year and a half, and we really transformed that school. We took everything I learned from Santa Clara, brought it over to Milpitas, which was very hard to do because they were stuck in their own old ways from their previous head instructors, and we turned that school around unbelievably. And after about a year and a half, I asked Quadrum Ernie, I said, hey, I think I can run my own school. And he gave me his blessing. Quadrum Tony gave me his blessing. And that's when we started looking for schools. And we weren't going to open Pleasanton. We were actually opening up Daly City, which was, we wouldn't be here right now. And everything happens for a reason. Daly City, I wanted to culturally be involved with my ethnicity. And Daly City is the Filipino capital of the United States. More Filipinos in Daly City than anywhere in the entire United States. They migrate to that area for whatever reason. And I thought to myself, well, every freaking Filipino knows the name Ernie Reyes. If I open up an Ernie Reyes West Coast school here, it's going to be successful. And so I started looking without telling Quadrum Ernie, and he, when I found a location, I was like, Quadrum Ernie, I found the location. He's like, where is it? I'm like, Daly City. He's like, no. I'm like, what do you mean no? He's like, you can't open one up in Daly City. I'm like, sir, it's like 9 out of 10 Filipinos in that, like 9.5 out of 10 Filipinos. Like, they all know you. Our school's going to be successful. And he's like, I made a promise to Grandmaster, I want to say Castro, whoever it was down there. He had a relationship with that guy, and they both promised each other they wouldn't open up in each other's territories. And there was some martial arts honor and respect there. And so we didn't open Daly City. And Quadrum Donna helped me look for another location, and she said, Pleasanton? I was like, what's Pleasanton? I had no idea what Pleasanton was. I didn't even know that was a city. Like, when I used to drive here, I would drive to San Ramon. I have family in San Ramon. I didn't know there was a city before San Ramon, which was Dublin, then Pleasanton, then Livermore. I just knew it was like San Jose and San Ramon. So I was like, what is Pleasanton? She's like, you gotta try Pleasanton. And I'm like, so we drove up here, we looked at it, we're like, dude, this place is cool. And then Pleasanton was born. 2013? Yeah.
So Quadrum Ernie and this other guy, you said Grandmaster Castro, they sound like if Tupac and Biggie never became enemies, basically.
Dude, there's a respect there for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
All right. Okay, so one of your older students, Dinesh, he left out in 2020,
Yeah.
and one of my closest friends, and he's helped me with the past couple of interviews, and he had a couple of questions that he helped me make on here. So the first question he had on here is, you've run the school for 10 years, and he wanted to know, how did you do expand, like, so you were on your own for a while, right? Like, it was just you teaching?
For 3 years, it was just me solo.
Exactly. So it was just you solo, and you've also, like, I think, we're on the 3rd building now? Like, so we were, no, 4th, right? Because
and then we came upstairs 2, then we came downstairs 3, and now over there 4. Yeah.
So what is this like? How has this process of expansion been over these last, like, because 10 years, we hit May, that's 10 years.
Oh my God. So, when you asked that question, I just want to blow my head away, because what a journey. What a crazy, oh man. 10 years we did that to that to that to that. Like, I mean, first and foremost, you say, I did it by myself, but behind every man is a great woman, and Coach Jane, we wouldn't be where we're at, I mean, I only had a certain amount of capital from my mom's inheritance when she passed to get me started and to get me to where I needed to go, but then we still weren't making it. Like, man, at the first karate school, how many we probably had like 30 students that for a while, like, and back then tuition fees were like $120, like $100. You just how can you make rent? And Coach Jane, when we met and everything, she was financially really, really good with her money. I think she might have had like $12,000 or $15,000 put away in her savings account, and she would draw every month from her savings account to float our life, to keep the karate school open, to keep things going forward. We would eat cup of noodles for, God, I remember like 3 or 4 months straight, every day, cup of noodles, top ramen, mixed with egg, because we didn't have money, we didn't have anything to get by. We were driving from San Jose to Pleasanton, which was a 35-minute commute every day. So the gas was killing us, the drive was killing us. Then we were there at the school all day, and it didn't make sense to drive home and come back for fitness or for martial arts. And so at that point, I remember we built an office desk in the office, where the bottom was a desk and the top was a bunk bed, so that I could sleep there, and Coach Jane would be able to sleep there if she needed to. Like, we were literally living at all the karate schools, just brought a cot, brought a bed, do whatever we could to basically stay there all day. And eventually she pulled every dime out of that $15,000 savings account to keep us alive. And then it was me, like you said, it was me teaching fitness, martial arts. Then she would come 2-3 hours in traffic to come help me teach the late classes for TSF. And then we wouldn't go home till midnight, because those were college kids that enjoyed being awake so long, so late. And we don't want to kick anyone out. We wanted to create that Ohana tribe feeling that anyone can be here at any time. And so we would do that day in, day out. So without her, it wasn't me. Like, when someone thinks it was me by myself doing it, I wouldn't have been able to do it without Coach Jane. And then you look at 2 years later, and Coach Taino comes back from the Philippines and wants to see what I'm up to. And then I'm like, bro, you could help me teach. And he's like, I don't remember this curriculum. And I'm like, you were 6 months away from your black belt. Let's get you tested for your black belt. And he's like, you think we can make this happen? I'm like, I can use your help. And I think somewhere in that 3rd year at the first location is when he jumped in to help. And he didn't know that his 1 year of helping me out would turn into years and years. And now he doesn't teach anymore, as you can see, but he's the man behind the scenes, right? He's the man that keeps everything running. He's I wouldn't be able to do this without him. And that was the way it was throughout the entire time. There was that first 2 years when I was by myself. Before Somnum Tino, we Somnum Pat came into our life, and without him, I wouldn't have been able to have gotten through some of those moments. Him coming back to teach, him going back to test for his second degree, like all of that has just been a blessing. So when I don't never really looked at it as I was by myself. There was always someone or a guardian angel that got me to where I needed to get to in life, and is still part of my life. It wasn't like it was a one and done, or like I stabbed anyone in the back to get to where I needed to get. Like, they're still literally part of my life, and we're all raising the standard together as we keep moving forward. So yeah, from there to here, and man, we could talk about the stories of what it was like to transition from that building to this building, and the trials and tribulations it took to get here, and losing 200 people from the tribe side of TSF, coming here and losing all of them because the tenants that were here didn't want to move out of the building. So we were screwed for a year, and then by the time we finally got that gym open, 200 people weren't coming back to us, and they found their own gym, and we lost everyone. And talk about a roller coaster ride of like feeling like you're finally making it, then losing, and making it, then you're losing, and it was over and over again. Every time you think you hit the lowest low, there was something lower than that. Always. As a matter of fact, we're hitting our tenure, and this last 2 months was probably the hardest financial moment in our entire tenure. And for some reason we made it. We're gonna make it through. We're still in the process of making it through, but it has been extremely difficult. And so it wasn't like, it's hard to say, right? Like you see this. Is it a facade? Is this building that you have and the equipment and everything you see look like success? I don't feel like we're there yet. But I think if you say that, I think you're basing it off financial means. Financially, we're not there yet, for sure. And what I mean by financial is when like your expenses are, your income is greater than your expenses. That's to me financial stability, because then the coaches and the instructors are turning this into their lifestyle. I don't want Quadrum David or anyone to think that this is just the side hustle until they can get a real job one day. This is the real job, and so what can we do to provide for that? So it can't be successful just financially. And that's where Wisam Tano always brings me back to the spiritual aspect of things. The success has been there 10 years. When you have changed and inspired and motivated many students, some to get to their first degree, second degree, third degree, fourth degree black belt, then how do you not see success in that? So there's different forms of success: financial, spiritual, life-changing. And so when you tell me I'm successful, I still haven't felt that yet. Even though I'm not 100% on the karate side that I used to be, I even feel like I get a chance to think of it as it's 3 times more that we get to affect now. I can only teach 100 students when it was just me. Wisam Tino came into the picture full time, it was 150 students. Now we have Quadrum David, Sam Kaleka, Sam Jyoti, Wisam Solomon, and a couple great assistant instructors that can come in and help us out. That's 4 times the amount of people we can change lives. And now we're at 200. We're at double the amount of people than when it was just me by myself. So the success of transforming that many more lives is a win more than anything, more than financial. It's never been about the money. So yeah, so it's hard when you say, look at your success, look what you built. I don't, you have to expand on what's the expansion on what is success,
So one thing that just has me completely confused how you just said, and this can be like, this one I just, before getting anything, it's about the lows with this stuff about these past 2 months. In my head, I've always had it that 2021 test was going to be the worst of it. So before I go any deeper into the question,
2021 test was going to be the worst?
like, so when we were, like, in February 2021, we were on the top of the hill, Alum Rock, and you said you and Coach Jane were basically fighting to keep the school open to get these 2021 testers through.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And like, so before I get any further into this, I want to know, would you be comfortable talking about like these last couple of months? Because that's something that's truly shocking to me.
Like when you talk about 2021, that January, when we talk about highs and lows, that was the low. Like that was the low.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
At that time, that was the low. We just pulled through the pandemic, and everybody in the world is quitting, and everybody's on Zoom, and everyone's hating life, and at that point in my mind, I'm like, how long can we keep draining money we don't even have? It's not like we have a savings account. Like when you talk about success on a financial thing, I don't have a savings account. There's no savings account money that is being deposited every month, which is crazy. If you ask any business entrepreneur or anybody, they'd be like, how do you not have a savings account? When you retire, what are you going to retire on? Like, you have nothing. There's no reserves. It's almost like we live paycheck to paycheck. And so during that time, it was like, let's just sell everything. Like, okay, obviously we bought this at a certain time. There's going to be some equity there. Let's just sell everything and get going. So financially, it made sense to get through it. And then I told everyone that Coach Jane was like, yo, you got May 2021 testers that need a test for the black belt. If we leave and quit now, how are they going to get their black belt? Where are they going to go? You're going to send them on Zoom to another instructor? Like, and I just was like, you're right, let's finish it strong. Thank God we finished it strong, because growth happened again. Now there's your ups and there's your lows. That was a low point where we thought about closing down, probably one of the lowest points. And then again, Jane talked me through not closing, which ended up being success again. And then this year, I think when you look at, like, I want to say it's comparable to like fitness. And the analogy is when you're hanging on a pull-up bar and you do a pull-up, then you come back down and you straighten your arms, and you stay there for a second before you pull up again, and then you come back down and you stay there for a second again. That's called time under tension. There's tension because you could just let go and relax your arms, or you can hang there and then tax your grip and then try to do another pull-up. So the tension under that time, you're going to break. Sooner or later, you're going to let go of the pull-up bar. That time over tension is the same with financials. And this could be with family, it could be with work, it could be business related to anybody. In my relation, you try to recover from the pandemic. You try to recover from loss of students. You try to do these things that look like it's going to work, but it doesn't. Just when you're about to climb back to a financial balance of feeling like, oh, we could breathe, and the school's doing fine and the gym's doing fine, that's your recovery point. And then something that's never happened in 10 years, 60 families leave to vacation over the summer. And so we take over a $34,000 hit for June, July, August. And there was not like savings money that we dumped into saving us for that $34,000 to stay alive, right? So that money came from the money that was already income, which now you're putting yourself, you're spending more money than you make. And so you do that for how long? And then that's that time over tension. It's going to break. Somewhere's going to break.
Yeah.
And so you think that's going to happen. And then the 60 people who leave, let's say 50 come back and 10 don't. Okay, so that 10 didn't come back. So then there's your, there's your $2,000 that's not coming back in your pocket a month. And so those kind of moments start to kind of happen. And then like the grants that you think you're going to be able to get because of the pandemic, they didn't come through. So 10 or 15 or $20,000 you think is coming doesn't come, or they say you're not qualified, or the funds are gone. And so you're not relying on that anymore. And so you're like, how are we going to dig ourselves out of this hole? And things just happened and got worse and worse. And then life throws crazy balls at you like that, makes it worse. Here's a funny story. We're trying to get a bigger car because I feel like the family car that we had was too small, and I kept hitting Legacy's head on the car seat as I kept putting her in because the span of the ceiling was not big enough. I'm like, we need a bigger car. And then so we reserve a car, and the Model Y comes in next March, April. Okay, that gives us time to kind of financially be ready for that. And then of course they throw you a curveball. Your car's ready now. And you're like, where the hell are we going to come up with money? Like, this is crazy. What are we going to do? And so, you talk about creatively financing things, that I think if there's a thing that I have, it's creativity, it's vision, and discipline to make things happen. And I just created whatever we can create, and we made it happen. But that puts you more financially in a hole, and that's affecting everything. Once you're financially in the hole, it affects how you're going to take care of your team, right? The people on your payroll, and then are they happy? And then, okay, now we got Christmas bonuses and all the things that come in as a business owner that you forget that those things are needed. And so it really did a toll on us. And then a gym down the street is closing down, and they're like, hey, we were thinking about selling our equipment to you. And you, as a fitness owner, you're like, how do I not capitalize on gym equipment? A dumbbell is about $2.50 a pound, and then you pay for shipping, which is $3.25 a pound, and they're selling it for 75 cents a pound. Like, how do you not buy that, right?
And there's no shipping.
So let's buy all the stuff we need. What are we going to buy it with? We don't have money. So then you're like putting yourself again in a deeper hole. But it's a hole you have to put yourself in because it's going to help you grow later on, and you know that you need that equipment. So why are you going to pay full price for it later on when you can get it now at a cheaper price? But it's messing you up financially. And so we would do that to ourselves all the time. We would purposely jack ourselves up. Like, did you really need a new car? Probably not, right? Like, let's be real. Could I live in a freaking old school 1980s car and do what I got to do? Yeah, for sure. But there was a lifestyle that was trying to be meant, and it wasn't happening. So then we did that. But then the blessings start to happen again. And I think blessings will always happen, because it's never been about the money. It's never been about how much money can both businesses make. And when I say that, you can ask any business friend of mine, it pisses them off. They say like, what are your expenses? I don't know. What's your income? I don't know. Wait a minute, Brian, are you telling me you don't know how much money the gym and the Christ School make? I don't know. What are you paying your payroll? I don't know. I don't know anything. I could sit down and figure it out, and I have, because when you get to those low points, you actually sit down with spreadsheets and you're like, holy crap, this is what's happening. And you're like, I'll have to shut the Christ School down if I don't change something.
Yeah.
And we can't do that because you're changing lives. So you guys have always been such a motivating factor to continue to do the right thing. And when I say that is like those business friends, Jesse and everybody, they're like, as a business owner, you got to know how much money you make and how much money you spend. And my comment is, as long as the bills are paid, the staff is happy, and we're all living within our means, I don't need to know how much money we make, or because it's never been about that. It's how are the students doing? Are they continuing the legacy? Are they, and because those things happen, the byproduct is financial success. When you're going for your 3rd degree, when you're going for your 4th degree, when you're going for your next rank, when you're coming to karate every day, when you're going to the tournaments, all of that is a byproduct of financial success on my part. But I don't make you do those things. You do it because you want to do it. And as long as you do it because you want to do it, everything good's going to happen financially for a business, for me. And I got that, and as bad as it sounds, probably from Quadrum Ernie. Quadrum Ernie could care less about money. He's never been about the money. Maybe the people around him are like, hey, we got to worry about the money because we're an association. We got to cut costs here. We got to do this. And he's always like, whatever we got to do to make things work, make people happy, let's do it. And I think that's kind of the bad and good trait that I got from him financially as a business owner. But I think also it's what caused the success of everything. If nothing was ever about the money and it was always about your legacy, then how does the money not become a byproduct of greatness through your legacy? So, yeah, could we do math? Could we calculate how many students? Could we calculate averages? Yes. Could we calculate expenses? Yeah, if people aren't stupid, they can sit down and try to figure out what we do. But I tell you straight up, we spend what we make and everyone is happy. And that's probably why I have nothing in my savings account, which is probably a bad thing, which is why I got into learning how to, be better with that financially through real estate, through business opportunities and creating teams and doing things that I never got to do before because I get those opportunities now. But it's all been growth, and when it's the worst. When I say it's the worst, this 2 months has been the worst. Coach Jason just came back from Taiwan. He's been gone for a month, and he's like, all of that happened in 1 month. When I told him everything from the financials to the people who quit, to the people who stayed, to the gym that closed down, to all of it, he was like, 1 month? I was only gone for 1 month. And I'm like, that's how fast things have changed in our culture here. And that's why the ability to adapt to a continuous change is so freaking important, because if you can't, stress. Mm-hmm. So,
I want to point out one thing. Everything that you said in the last couple of minutes, there's one person you remind me of, which just, I didn't think I'd be making this comparison, but I have to.
Okay.
You remind me of Jeff Bezos running Amazon. In the way that you say you bleed money for, Amazon was trying to get into the diaper business, and one of their things was, their biggest competitor was diapers.com. And what did they do? No, not that. They bleed money. Like, they're losing millions, if not tens of millions, hundreds of, they're losing crazy money in trying to, undercut their competitor, right? And it's not, sure, okay, Amazon is a bit more of a savage way of going about it, and and not in a good savage. It's like, they're undercutting their competitor, offering, heavily discounted in a way that they're making a huge loss. And then diapers.com can't afford it, and then they buy diapers.com after their prices tanked, and then there's basically nothing left of them. It's just eliminate the competition. But what you remind me of is the way that they take that huge financial loss to rise up more. It's like the biggest Phoenix metaphor out there. It's interesting.
It's not let me tell you, it is not the system. It's not an efficient system. It's not a system I would tell someone to. Someone was like, hey, that's a good idea, sir. Maybe I won't worry about the money. You're like, no, worry about the money. But I won't even take my own advice.
Yeah.
I really, Jane is just like, how do you not know? And I'm just, it's bad. But you know what? You look at the kids, you look at the students, you look at the athletes, you look at the coaches, you look at the staff, and everyone's positive and everyone's happy. And if that's okay, then what matters what you spend and what you make. You can't put a money price on that. Everyone's happy. That's it. And we're going to make them happier. Okay, well, let's get the 250 students, 50 more students. Okay, divide that total amongst all you guys. Because obviously I was living off of a certain lifestyle, and so I don't need to increase my lifestyle. So let's take all that money and pass it to you guys because you guys did it. And now everybody gets to feel like they're rising together, doing their efforts, and that's what's important. You know, it's so exciting. It's so exciting because here we are 10 years in May, 10 years, and we haven't, and the best is yet to come. 10 years and the best is yet to come. We're not even like, okay, what the hell is the best, right? Like, this place is gone next door. I think this is the end of the month, this December 31st. And then everyone's always joking, like, are we going to get that? And I'm like, I don't know. Do we want it? Do we not want it? Like the opportunities never stop. And every time when finances get to a point where you're so happy, you're like, Jane, we're actually like doing good. Boom, something happens like, hey, you want to purchase the building next door. And all our reserves, all the money and everything that puts us back into debt and worse debt goes into buying that building. And now we're in a point where we're like, how are we going to survive again? But then look what it does. It's like what you said. We put ourselves so bad into a bad place that it did something great later on. I don't know. It's not the way to teach. I would never teach an apprentice like that. But if there's something out of it, it's the love of doing the right thing. Because the right thing always prevails, and it always has prevailed. It doesn't mean that drama doesn't come our way. But even then, you know, the truth still prevailed. And I think that's ultimately what matters.
Going back to everyone rises together, the philosophy that goes back to is going to be Mark Cuban. He's owner of Dallas Mavs.
Yep.
Sold his first company really young, and his philosophy, like, you could be from the lowest of the low. Like, even though it wasn't a factory working company, if you were the equivalent of a factory worker in his company, Micro Solutions, you'd get stock. And like when the company succeeded, you would succeed. And it's interesting. You always say model successful people. I don't know if you know you're actively doing it, but you are. First Jeff Bezos, now Mark Cuban. These are some of the most successful people in our generation, but that's what you're doing. So my question to you, though, the one thing that's made these two people succeed more than all like bleeding themselves dry to succeed or giving their employees stock and helping them like survive more, it's going to be the fact that they know how to surround themselves with the best kind of people. And I know you do, because I get to see that. Like I hop in here and like on like when I'm like, let's say I'm teaching a class and Kaleka's handling that class, I'll hop in here and I'll be talking to Coach Christian for a while, and I see that. Or I'm in the karate school and I'm seeing Kaleka, some Jyoti, some Solomon, or some David. Or back when I was learning myself, when I was tested for my black belt, I see some Tino, I see some Pat, I see Shri, Yash. How do you manage just like I think if there's one thing that I could probably take away on top, that's not true. There's a lot of things I could take away, but the one thing that I want to point out right now, you are amazing at surrounding yourself with these kind of people. How do you do it? What do you look for when you're trying to build a team?
Wow. God, I think that's super important, is who you surround yourself with, right? Tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. That's what my dad used to always say. I think it goes back to what we were just saying, is if you always do the right thing, if you always know in your heart that this is true with nothing but love, then you're going to be okay. And that's what I mean when I say that. I say that about, like, I look at Christian and I think about this 21-year-old kid who's young, who's teaching engineers and doctors and lawyers and very successful professionals. And you're 21. It's a very inferior, complex kind of thing. Like, how are these guys going to listen to me? Kaleka, being 20 years old, thinking, how are these adults going to listen to me? But when I say, like, doing the right thing, knowing that these people are true with love, I know Christian's heart deep down, and I'm like, this guy has nothing but love to give. Like, he wants people to get fitter and healthier passionately. Kaleka wants that out of his students. David wants to replicate everything that I do, which is what I would do. So then how is he not the same, if not better, person to grow with. You have to pride yourself on the people that you surround yourself with, right? And I'm so proudful of like our team and our staff and what everyone brings to their table and what skill they bring to the table and what emotional aspect they bring to the table. Sometimes it's probably a bad thing, right? Like Maddie is a freaking unbelievable technician as a martial artist. She's great at organization. But when it comes to talking to people, that's not her forte. Okay, well, we're going to grow that. We're going to make her be able to talk to the parents who say, hey, ma'am, I'm trying to sign up for the tournament. How do I do it? And her being able to explain it. She's not a outgoing, talkative person. So we have to create that skill. We have to build that skill. But that doesn't stop me from knowing how emotionally dope she is. But that problem also is, it's also her flaw. She's emotional. And so she'll let drama emotionally affect her. She'll let her feelings on something emotionally affect her. And that could be a red flag to a CEO, to a hiring manager, to be like, oh, this person's emotional, let's cut ties. I look at it like it's her strength and it's her flaw. And let's build on both of those things so that we can create her to become even a better person. And everybody has those strengths and flaws, and the flaw only actually strengthens their strength. Christian's flaw is that he's a young 21, 22-year-old kid coaching health and fitness to adults. Okay, well, his strength is that he was doing it since he was younger than some of these adults were, and doing it nationally ranked and recognized in the entire nation. The adults don't know that, but he knows it. That's his strength. Okay, well, let's build your strength for your flaw, because your flaw is you're feeling inferior. You don't need to feel inferior, because I know that this guy, Joe, over here, has never lifted a barbell, but you've done it for the past all your life, even as a little kid. So you have more experience than him, and that becomes a strength and a flaw. So you're building those two things to become one, and not letting the emotional aspect of someone's flaw deter you from wanting that person in your life. And you have to be prideful of it, because for me and Jane, we truly don't have a crap load of family and friends. We really don't. Our family and friends truly are the people we see every day, which is the Christ School students, the parents, the athletes, the coaches. That's it. That's really, really it. But man, when you think about like that group of people, I wouldn't want to surround myself with anyone other than that on the daily basis. I'm so lucky that Legacy gets to grow up to this environment. Legacy gets to ask you how to help her with her homework. Legacy gets all of these things, right? Honor gets to follow in that footsteps. And so like, how do you pick those people? I think it's what you attract. I don't want to attract some buster, some guy who's a slacker. Everyone does rise each other over one up, right? Like when someone comes to me, you're rising me up by doing this podcast, right? You think that I rose you up to become this person. You're doing this to me right now. And I've kept you in my life to continue to build me to become that person also, because when you challenge me like this is very challenging. I don't like this kind of stuff. And when you think about KJN Brian, who hosts Christmas parties and black belt initiations and all these events, and everything's so fun, and even playing dodgeball, the way he commentates is so fun. Like, all of that is an act. It's work to me. My personality is I want to be in my bed, on my couch, in my pajamas, watching Netflix, and not talking to anyone. Like, I'm a very, I don't want to say a hermit, and I don't want to say I don't like people, but I just like to be just family oriented with that, and that's it. I do it because I have to. I do it because it's work. But then now the work aspect becomes real. Your coaches, who become your family, it was something I did because I had to, but now it's grown into family. But But that doesn't disregard my true character. It goes back to staying in my own lane. I'm the same guy. Everyone's having a party, and I'm the guy who's like doesn't want to be at the party. That's so weird because I'm the guy who's throwing the party. I threw the Christmas party for TSF. I'm running the hosting. I'm doing the games. I'm hyping everyone up. Everyone's having a great time playing the minute to win it games. All the adults are clowning on each other. I'm commentating because commentating is an important thing. Like, oh, he's got the cup. He's in first place. Like that's, and I'm hyping everyone up. And then I'm like, hey, everybody enjoy. Oh, here's our MVP of the year. It's a great, I'm hosting it. After the hosting, if you saw me, and I was very conscious, like, shoot, I better get out there and work and talk to everyone because I want them to feel good about being here at the party. I caught myself many times just staying by myself by the food, sitting with my cup of drink in a corner, being a wallflower, because I'm not the social butterfly that people might see or think, and it blows people away because...
Yeah, it's blowing me away right now.
You know, here we are with initiation, and we got this big party, and everything's going on, and graduation, and I'm hosting that. And deep down inside, I'm just like it's nerve-wracking to me. I feel like I am the shy guy. I'm the guy who just wants to stay quiet. So it's weird, you know? But because I forced myself out of that element, it's allowed me to have the greatest friends in my life also, which is a small circle, a small group of like true people. And it's weird because I say small, but then I think about how lucky I am, how big it is. Honor has 6 godparents that I would never trust anybody else more than those 6. Legacy has 6 different godparents. That's 12 people in my life that I trust enough for my kids, right? That's a lot of people. When I think about, I only have a certain amount of friends that I see and hang out with every single day, probably 5. Then I go, wait a minute, it's not 5. There's 12 godparents. Then you take those godparents, and then you got some of our staff people that I think of as family. Then I think of like students that are like young brothers and sisters or kids of mine. It's so crazy to, I feel like I'm contradicting myself all the time about being this shy guy, but I'm not, or being this loner, but I'm not, or being this leader, but I love to follow. Like, it's so crazy to be a walking contradiction, which is why I'm always like, when you say your biggest inspiration, you're a role model, I'm thinking to myself, oh God, don't be the bad side of me, because I feel like there is that. I feel like I don't want you to be the shy guy. I don't want that girl to be the shy guy. I don't want that person to keep getting bullied. I don't want people to be the thing that I say to do. And I feel like I've walked those things, but man, I just love PJs and pajamas and Netflix, and that's it, right? So it's kind of weird who KJN Brian truly is. Is he the guy that walks around here, power of presence? Or is he the guy that just wants to be in the house doing nothing? Or is he both? Is he one or more? I don't know. You know? It's crazy when you ask those things and say those things to me.
One thing you've never considered out like auditioning for a Marvel movie or something with like if you're saying what you do is an act, then you've never considered that before?
You just have to be the best actor that you can possibly be. And I don't want it to sound bad either. Like if I'm running your initiation or your graduation or your tournament, I don't want it to sound like I'm acting that I care. They're truly emotional sincerity behind what I do. So I'm not acting like I want everyone to have a good time. I'm not acting that KJN Brian's this great host, but I am acting in the fact that it's my job, it's what I do, and those two worlds have kind of collided into becoming reality. But I hope people don't misinterpret it that I'm an actor that just looks like I'm putting up a facade of things.
So, in West Coast Pleasanton, this is something I've noticed ever since March 2017. No, February actually, because February was my first class. I came for one of those, I think it was like, you had this buddy thing where the existing student You bring in
Buddy
one.
day.
Yeah, buddy for your trial classes.
Oh my
like,
god,
yeah.
we got to bring that back.
Yeah, so I come by for that, and since then.
Who was your buddy that brought you?
Rishi. So he he and I had been friends since second grade. I think this is maybe 4 or something like that. Yeah, so he brings me in, and I take my first class with some Taino, and then I come back and I'm part of that group who is his, like, as you said when we were testing, we're his first black belts. And one thing I noticed about that, it's what you have on the website too, the 3 C's: culture, community, and connection.
Correct.
And I don't think outside of the gym, and if you go next door to West Coast Plus, I don't think I've if I'm gonna be brutally honest, like there's no others, like if you look at education, they suck at that. Like nothing, I don't know of anything, like professional companies, like for example, if you look at my mom, she works at one of the companies which has some of the best culture out there, but even that, I still think that this could even, like, how are you so good at building this kind of culture? Because if you can top multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies, you can top the freaking public school education system, which is supposed to be building generations. How are you able to top that? It's crazy.
It's crazy that you say that. I think it just comes back to your upbringing of who you were brought up to be. Because my parents were amazing and Quadrantoni was amazing. You know, my parents were the ones that said, you say hello and goodbye every single time. Every single time. When I walk through that door, you better stop what you're doing. Come give me a hug and say, hi, Daddy. And if you're leaving somewhere, you better say bye, Daddy. And that's you get that cultivated in your freaking DNA. Really. Like it's taught to you. And I said this story. My dad, I didn't say hi to him once, and I was on my Nintendo, and he went over to the Nintendo. And back then in Nintendos or whatever, you couldn't pause. I mean, you couldn't save unless you got to a certain point. I didn't get to my certain point, and so I didn't pause. I didn't save it. And when he unplugged it out of the socket, I was just like, oh my God. And he gave me the biggest spiel, and I was probably 5 years old. He's like, when I walk through this house, I don't care what you do, you say hi. I'm just like, holy crap, you know. And then that moment, hi and bye every single time growing up. Then I go into the karate school, and Quadrantoni is fostering that same mentality with a bow. And whenever you see me, you bow. Whenever you leave, you bow. Like that's the tradition of martial arts, and that's what you do. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I was taught that also. So then I was really fortunate that my upbringing was connected to no matter what I did in life. And so I get to Quadrantoni's culture of West Coast and what they're building, and it's funny, right? When you say culture, the first word is cult. And people can say that this is a cult, West Coast is a cult, Tribe is a cult, and everything is a cult. Then I look at there has to be good cults and bad cults in life. There has to be positive cults and bad cults in life. If my kid was in a positive cult that inspired them to become great leaders, health and fitness ambassadors of life, what am I being mad at the cult for? Now, if it's a cult that's encouraging people to do drugs and drink and kill people, then that's a negative cult. So I think the cult word has a negative connotation to it, that it's always bad, but it's not. There's positive cults out there, and instead of saying a positive cult, there's just a positive culture or a positive community. And I learned that at West Coast through traditions, all the kids' night outs that we got to have, the sleepovers that we got to have, the Allen Rock workouts, the this, the that, the things that he embedded in me, that I was like, if I loved that when I was a kid all the way to 15 years old, how would not anyone love that? And so why not do the exact same thing? Expect those things: attention, bow, say hello and goodbye, say please and thank you, look me in the eye, firm handshake. All the things that are human characteristics don't get taught. Literally, like school doesn't teach you to do those things. So where else are you going to learn it from? And we hope that we're building that seed as a foundation here in West Coast, and then it just transcends into community and culture. Now we've cultivated what we want. Now the community either embraces it and grows it, which creates more connections between more people. It's just a timeline. And it's so important because it's not just, I props to FNS Fitness Training Center, and that's where I've learned it all. Is when I heard Coach Brian talk about culture, community, and connection, I was like, God, he's saying exactly what I was never able to say or think in my mind. Like, what are the words that you live by, Brian Go? What are the words you live by, Quadrant Brian? What are the words you live by, Coach Brian Go? And I would word vomit something. It was always community, culture, and connection. And I know that I've copied that from him. And props to you, Coach Brian. But God, it's everything that we are. It's who I am. And if it's who I am, and I implant that into the teachers and the students, then it becomes who you are, and then that's who you guys get to grow to become the most amazing people in this world. And it's not just community, culture, and connection in the West Coast. It's in TSF. These adults aren't getting taught how to do the right thing sometimes. They think they know that. And that's what we're here to do. We're not just coaches in fitness, but I think in life. And so I think you're taught it, you're embedded in it, it grows into you, and then you foster it and you take care of it and you protect it at all costs. Protect this house, protect this culture. Under Armour is protect this house. That's their slogan. Protect this culture. Like, if there was things, how many drama things have happened in 10 years where we've had to protect the culture and maybe get rid of some of that drama, get rid of people, get rid of coaches, get rid of the things that didn't coincide with our belief system. And as bad as it sounds, my belief system, because if I don't resonate with that belief, then how am I going to teach it? I have to believe it 100% that that's the right thing, because once I believe it, then I'm going to teach it that's the right thing. And some people have their own thought process, and that's okay. But it's not what we're looking for as a culture and community, and we're not going to be able to connect on it. So, I got it from FNS. It's really transcended in my life, in all aspects of my life, and look what it's done. People are not just friends in the martial arts school; they're friends outside of the martial arts school. They're not friends in the gym; they're friends outside of the gym on a hike together. That's more than, we're not talking about martial arts and fitness gyms anymore. We're talking about life. That's what excites me.
And it's interesting. You say, okay, what you say about being friends outside the martial arts school, that's how it is sometimes. But it also goes into people being friends outside the martial arts school and then becoming friends in the martial arts school. For example, like me and Rishi, right? We started off as friends outside the martial arts school, and then he brings me in. Or take a look at one of our new, I think he's purple maybe, Sokshan. He recently joined. Yeah, and like I've been friends with him for a good amount of time. Like met him at the beginning of high school, and I've been and recently with the new sophomore year, I brought him in, and this goes to more of a business thing. You've told me I think back there was this one time where I came to you, I'm like, sir, can I because you were mentioning to us when we were testing, it's like, this is a hard time for us, right? And I was like, sir, can I make fire something? And you say, as West Coast Pleasanton and Tribe, we have grown solely through word of mouth. Your customer acquisition cost is zero. Who else can speak to that? No, you don't do marketing. You don't do any of that. How?
It is crazy. It still boggles my mind. I literally, when Quadrant David first came aboard, he was like, I can't wait. We're gonna make some cool videos, because he's the video king.
Yeah.
We're gonna make some cool videos, and we're gonna put on Facebook and Instagram, and we're gonna get a whole bunch of new people. And I'm like, bro, I've done I've tried it. I've gotten 0 people out of it. I don't even do it anymore. It just doesn't work. Well, how'd you get all these people? From someone talked about it and they heard it from someone else, and there's no way, sir. And he was like so adamant that he did not believe me. Then after a couple months of being here, he was like, there's no way that we're getting new students without any advertising. And I'm like, I know, I get what you say. I get what you're saying. We should be advertising. We should be spending money. We've tried it. He's like, well, let's try. I'm here now. Can you give me a budget? I was like, all right, here's $200. Go try to do something. Spent $200. Nothing. Not a single phone call. Not a single person walked in and said, hey, I saw you guys on da-da-da. Nothing. He was just like, this is crazy. And so it's not like it's, when you say how, there is no answer to this because it does not make any freaking sense at all. A lot of the TSF people, some of them never even heard, they all came from NC Fit that closed down, and they're like, dude, I didn't even know this gym was here. I'm just like, yeah, we don't really, nobody knows. And then they're just like, this is crazy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, which is why I'm excited too this time, because 10 years later, the school's running finally kind of automatic, 95% with Quadrant David doing all of it, doing an unbelievable job. And now I can put my focus into building this other piece that we've never really had the opportunity to do. We've always kind of juggled it. It's always taken a backseat burner to the business. West Coast has always been the breadwinner, and if that business didn't do well, then this business would die. So all our marbles would always go there. Then I'd come back and dabble over here to kind of get it to grow, and then I would have to leave because time to go back to that. First time in 10 years, we get to finally build this. And with 30 NC Fit members coming over, that momentum plus 2023 momentum plus whatever we can do to kind of like create all of that, there's never been a more exciting time in 10 years. Like, I thought your first year in business is exciting. Like, no way. How is it the best is yet to come? Someone's going to tell me like 10 more years from now, the best is still going to come. Like, how? Yeah, it's nuts. No advertising, no marketing.
It's interesting to know that, okay, like, because most people are going to be like, oh, well, I just, like, I would get up at 5 a.m. and I'd work on this and I'd work, like, they have some crazy success story that's like the David Goggins style, the superhuman. It's like, how does he do it?
Right.
And then we get to, like, and then it finally feels like something which the world can understand. Like, this is something which makes sense. Okay, that's how he did it. It's not like, you know, I just built, my mind is a tent, like all these crazy things that these basically superhuman. And you're like so down to earth with this, and it's really...
Don't get me wrong, did we 16-hour days, 3 years like that, definitely. Living at the school, eating at the school, like doing all of those things made it happen. But we're really, this goes back to West Coast roots. We're so freaking lucky that that business did so well because enough of those students had parents that were willing to give this a shot, that gave it a shot, that some are still around, some are still around, or some have tried it and have stuck with it, come and go when they can, and it's been supplemental to that. But don't get me wrong, I've tried to juggle both, and when you juggle both, one's gonna fall. And so we put a lot of our marbles into that, and now that it's running really, really good, the ability to see what can happen now to this side is limitless. And we haven't even touched our best over there yet, right? Like, I can't wait till the finances come and people can see that, like, don't get me wrong, college is great and a real job is great. But what happens if you can show someone that they can make 6-digit figures as a martial art instructor working less than 40 hours a week, weekends off, holidays paid, and they're just like, that's my job? Like, I want to be that first instructor that can pay 6 digits to a martial art instructor, and then everyone underneath them to know that it's possible. And I don't down college, and I don't down great jobs. I think it's amazing. You got to do those things, and I encourage Kaleka to go back to college and figure those things out. But how amazing would it be for people to see that martial arts isn't a side gig while I'm in high school. It's not a side gig while I'm in college. It's a gig that you get to change and transform people's lives what do? I transform kids' lives, and that's my job. That's my career. That's, and now I'm in the background, and I don't do it per se 6 hours a day, but I get to live it through David. David's doing what I'm doing. I'm not saying he's a puppet, but my hand is still in that West Coast school, whether I'm there physically or not. And that's so awesome. It's so awesome to know people like you are still in there, holding down the roots and customs of what I would be doing if I was in there. And then that will grow on its own. And when that grows on its own, then this can grow with it, and then everyone who's in our life will reap the benefits of that.
As a business owner, or as a person, or as a martial artist, or whatever labels that you have in your life to compartmentalize different things, or even if you shop, I'll ask Walking Brian Go, what is the hardest decision you have to make?
Hardest decision. God. Hardest decision? Hardest decision, and this is just impromptu, just off the top of my head. Didn't even know this question was coming. The hardest decision was the ability to allow myself to love, because I never believed in love, getting married, and having kids all my life. Anyone who knew me, my childhood friends, everyone now, knows that I was the man who was never going to get married, have kids, or say I love you. Never said I love you to any woman. I had to decide that I could fall in love. And it's funny how life throws those things at you. I was with a significant other at one point in my life that I thought I finally found love. I found it. And I was like, am I going to tell this girl I love her? No, I can't do that. That's a bad decision. Bad decision. Don't say it. Don't do it. And I made the decision to say I love you to her. And it was the best feeling of my life. Really, it was. And then, weeks, months later, the first time I was ever cheated on was with her. That woman cheated on me. And the person that I gave my love to, the person that I decided that was going to be the person I spent the rest of my life with, that I was going to have kids with. I didn't want kids. I had 300 dragons at Santa Clara. There was no way I was going to have kids. I had my sister changed her last name because she wanted the name Go to continue with her sons, Christian and Caleb, because she knew I was never going to have kids. That's why having legacy was a tearjerker for everyone, because I was not going to have kids. So the decision to fall in love and get your heart broken, and I was broken. I was at probably the worst low, one of the worst lows romantically in my life. And the crazy part is, because I allowed myself to love, that feeling was so unbelievably awesome. True love, the unexplainable, you can't explain love. If someone is like, gives you an explanation of love, it's amazing, because I've tried to explain it many times, and the infinite feeling of bliss comparable to love is unexplainable to me. To give that to someone and have it broken, brutal. To give it to someone and have it broken and still believe that it's still possible was amazing, because that led me to Jane, which led me to the life I have right now. Deciding to fall in love and say I love you, and having kids and getting married has been the best decision of my life, and I'm glad that I got to do that with Jane.
Out of everything I could have expected from that was, I don't think that's gonna be something I would have expected. I'll be honest, I was expecting like
it'd be something related to the pandemic these last 2 months, or like starting your own school and that like turning out like this.
You know, the moment you asked me that, my mind was thinking like that, and then I thought, that was hard. You have no idea. I didn't want to say I love you to any person ever, you know, for reasons that we don't need to discuss about. And believing in marriage and seeing people divorced, and then seeing my parents, they were so loving, and there was problems in their relationship, and just knowing I didn't want that. I can be happy with someone that just accepts me for who I am, and that's it. But you're never all in that relationship. And deciding was, I remember giving it to, it was hard. Like, I'm gonna say I love you to this girl. This is crazy. Telling Jesse and everyone was like, dude, you don't say I love you, bro. Are you sure that you're gonna give your love to this person? That's a big decision. It's like getting married. It was hard, and it wasn't a business thing. It was an emotional, spiritual moment for me, which is crazy to think that could be it. And maybe if you ask me a month from now, or we look back at this podcast, I'm like, oh, I should have said this. Maybe, but right now at this moment, it's hard. It really was.
Let's say there's a person out there and they have one experience to take through your life to build the foundation of them. And you can, like, you're giving one experience from your life.
Oh my God.
And you're building their foundation, and they're just like, you're to shape the foundation of their life. What from your life should they take away?
Oh man. God. Man. It's funny, I tear up because I don't know. You know, it's such a deep question, and it's you know, you're recording something that's historical. It'll be, you know, in the history books forever, and my kids get to see it, and I think about, you're basically asking me what I would say to them, because that's truly what it comes down to, you know? And it's emotional to me, I don't know, you know? I think two things. I think the power of love is indescribable, and love carries you through anything, no matter what trial, tribulation, obstacle. Love is the driving force that will make something happen. The thing before it is the thing that we got to do with our very first initiation Black Belt group, when they thought they were getting branded. What they got was a stamp, and the stamp said, "Faith makes all things possible." And how many impossible tasks was placed in front of us, in front of me, in my entire life. And I always just believed, I had faith, and I didn't know if it was faith in God, faith in the universe, faith in some supreme consciousness, faith in love, but I knew something was going to get me through that obstacle. And faith was why we had that stamp, and why we named Honor, her middle name's Faith. Honor, Faith, Go, because faith makes all things possible, and love is the action that makes faith possible. And with those two things, you can do anything. Anything in your life. Business, martial arts, sport. Any impossible task, faith will make it possible. Love is the driving force to make it happen.
So, when you say faith will make it possible, I guess, would you say that's why, like, because throughout this whole thing, I've been asking you a lot of questions that, if I ask anyone else, they'll be like, yeah, I've got these regrets, I've got these things, like, they'll, but you're like Frank Sinatra in my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. You're like, my question for you is going to be that, well, if you could do life over again, what would you do differently? But from what I'm hearing over and over, correct me if I'm wrong, but would you do anything different?
No, life has placed itself perfectly in this timeline. If I had a second chance to do anything over again, fall in love faster, not wait till I was 40 years old to have a kid, but then all of it was meant to happen because it happened with the person it was supposed to happen with, and I wouldn't want to change that. No regrets.
And question, Brian, I've got one final question for you as a business owner, martial artist, person, all of it. To someone, anyone, who's trying to become someone like you, where do they start? Where do you start?
Find a martial arts school that has culture, community, and connection in it. And if it's the right one, it's going to change your life. Because martial arts is synonymous with love. And if love is the driving force that makes everything happen in my life, martial arts is what happened for everything in my life. Find something like that. It's an analogy. It might be soccer, it might be piano. Find your martial arts. And if it has culture, community, and connection in it, it'll lead to your passion, purpose, and potential in your life. Don't wow me.
Just maybe if you ever, on some stretch of imagination, decide like retirement might be a good thing, don't retire. Travel around the world, be a motivational speaker.
No, I can't. I standing in front of all those people. When I'm in front of you guys, I get shaky deep down inside. My body's trembling a little bit. I get nervous. I always remember the first moment that I get nervous. The moment when all the parents are standing around at Blackwood initiation, leaving their kid for the first time with a stranger, never have been at a sleepover with any friends in their entire life, and now they're doing it at Blackwood initiation, and they're like, some of them who haven't been with us for 4 years have transferred from another karate school. It's like, who is this guy Brian Go? Now I have to talk to all the candidates and the parents in the background, and those moments, they just like start to like freak me out. Motivational speaking, God, I don't know how I would do. I don't know.
I get the feeling that no matter what you end up doing, the kind of for what this, oh my God, hour and a half. First of all, congratulations, you are now the longest ever interview on this podcast.
Oh no.
Yeah, but from what this has taught me, I don't think there are very few things that it seems like you truly put your mind to it, believe in it, like faith. I don't think there's many things you can fail at. Like, of course, failure is a very major thing, but in the end, it seems like maybe if you're not you might not be a motivational speaker, but the words you say, the impact you leave, you are a form of motivation for hundreds of people out there. Like I don't know the tribe numbers, but whoever's in here, like you are an inspiration. You are a motivation, and whether that's from like the KJN Brian who sits in his pajamas and watches Netflix, or it's the KJN Brian who's out there teaching, giving those speeches of initiation. Like for one, you've shown the world like this is you, but that's also you. That's this, and it's just truly like a blessing to be able to have this conversation. Thank you for this.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and hopefully we'll have more.
100%.
There's good. Thank you. Good stuff. All right.